Galatians 6, 7, and 8. What book did I say? 7 and 8 said, be not deceived, God is not mocked. Whatsoever a man sows, that shall he also reap. Now, you know, I like it when I put in them little seeds and I get them big beefsteak tomatoes. Y'all not listening to me. I like that. But there's also some other bad seed that brings forth tears and troubles and terrorism. And you realize that some of that stuff starts in our home. We got peer pressure. Siblings don't like one another. Come on, in the first chapter after the fall, Cain versus Abel. So you want to know where Ukraine and Russia come from? It comes from the same dysfunction that the devil started in heaven. Brothers don't want to share with one another. They find the pie and they want to keep it all to themselves. All because you quote the fourth commandment, your heart is still soiled. Isn't that what Jesus said in Matthew 23? He wasn't talking about the Babylonians. He was talking about the elect people of God. He said, your house is left unto you desolate. Come on now. We got to look in the mirror, ladies and gentlemen. Are we contributing to the circumstances, or are we trying to make the circumstances better? And we got to deal with it. And Daniel had to deal with it. And these Babylonians were about their own interests. Look at 2 Timothy chapter 3, 1 to 5. Paul says this, I just paraphrase it. He says, know this, and no, he's writing now some 600 years after Daniel. And he said, perilous times shall come. Here we are 2,000 years after Paul, 2,600 years after Daniel, and it don't look like too much has changed. We done been through, what's the man named? Family Radio, Campion. In 1992, he was predicting the world gonna collapse, right? Sky gonna fall down. Then 2000, and y'all save your canned goods. Y'all done put stuff somewhere you can't even remember where you put it. Called the Y2K, right? Then we got through Y2K, and within a year, here, my son calling me while I'm at the office early in the morning. Daddy, they done flown a plane into the building. No sooner than that, he called me right back. They done flown another plane into the other building. And before he could finish that, they done flown a plane into the Pentagon. They got another plane hovering somewhere over Pentagon. Y'all not listening to me. And because we now 21 years past that, we got Alzheimer's, and we think that circumstances have changed. I don't know about you. I did a funeral last Friday in Atlanta. Did a funeral yesterday in Philadelphia. And it looks to me, after 40 years of pastoral ministry, that I'm going to do another funeral sometime in the near future. Circumstances have not changed. And so here we realize that Paul predicts it, Daniel predicts it. In fact, Daniel says in that same chapter, in verse 13, he says, evil men and seducers shall wax work. Oh, come on now. You ain't seen nothing yet. The devil and his demented self. Hear what the Lord says, though. John 16:33, he says, in the world you shall have trouble, but be of good cheer. Come on now. Yeah. He said, because I have overcome the world. I can't tell you exactly how he gonna work it out, but I believe somehow he gonna work it out. And in my own experience, I know I've had my moments when I did what I'm singing. My theme song was Nobody Knows the Trouble I've Seen. Come on, can't get to the church house and talk about it. Look, I'm going through hell and high water. Come on now. I done tried to come up the rough side of the mountain. Look like my side of the mountain more rough than anybody else's. I done gone through the valley, deep depression. Come on now. Lions, tigers, and bears. And no sooner than I get out of that hot water, here I'm facing some more conflict. That's what I learned from this first point in Daniel's narrative, is that even believers are confronted with bad circumstances. The other point that I noticed is that circumstances involve the interests of persons, places, and things. I know our media talks to us, and all we hear is Ukraine. And I'm sensitive to Ukraine. But ladies and gentlemen, take the time to look at the geography. Ukraine is right on the border of Russia. Now I go back to 1963 here in America when Russia tried to put some missiles in Cuba. And you know, they done made a movie about it. 13 days. The president, who they blew his head off down in Dallas, come on now, had to negotiate because America said, we don't want no Russian missiles 90 miles. Y'all not listening to me. So I know that they paint a bad picture about Putin and Trump. But ladies and gentlemen, let me ask you, put yourself in Putin's place. I know some people may not like to hear no American preacher talking, but I'm just trying to understand this thing because I don't want to be yoked. I don't want to be maneuvered and manipulated. If NATO was trying to come right on your border, what do you think I'm going to do? Just sit there and say, come on in, welcome? Come on now. And the reason why I say that, and I'm going to leave this in a minute. 1954, we now know that the CIA, the Central Intelligence Agency of the United States, helped to topple a democratic government in Iran. They don't know, they'll tell you all that story. All they want to paint the Iranians as being evil people. But come on now, if you're really about democracy everywhere, then you ought to be about democracy all the time. But you went in and you toppled him because he had nationalized his oil. In other words, he's going to make the British, the French, and the American pay top dollar for the oil. Now, ladies and gentlemen, you know how you are. Now, let's find out how you really are. See, you want to don't pay anybody else top dollar, but you want top dollar for your stuff. That's not justice. So you topple him, you put in the Shah of Iran. Come on now. Now you're going to piece all that history back together. And you wonder how we got to Khomeini and them hostages in 1980. Because Iran, in their thinking, is you did us wrong in 54. Come on, ladies and gentlemen. Russia used to be our ally when we went to World War II. Now you got to realize, ladies and gentlemen, don't sit and just say I'm a Democrat or I'm a Republican. You got to help our leaders be faithful to everybody all the time. The kingdom of God is justice for the Russians, for the Ukrainians, for the French, for America, for everybody. It's got to be justice all the time. I'm not going to be manipulated by circumstances of other people's interests. So when you read, I give you a text, you can read it on your own, Ephesians chapter 2. Paul says, God has quickened us, made us alive, because we've been influenced by the discourse of this world. And the world, believe it or not, is not so much about peace with its brother's keeper. The world is more about dog eat dog. And it's in the church. See, unless you get your way, you ain't saying amen. I'm a member of the church, especially when you think you ain't going to get something. Now I'm a member of the church. But when it's something for me to get, you ain't too vocal about that. Because you sit there with your arm folded while I'm trying to ask for something, and you don't open your mouth and say, he deserves that. But now when it's you, your family, your group, now you cry, man, y'all doing me wrong, man. Why you, come on now. If it's going to be justice for you, it's got to be justice for them too. But people got their own interests. You know, when I'm in charge of the program, then I want my children to be front and center. Well, I want to know how come you always out of town when my children are front and center. Come on now. That's how churches are built. A culture is that not only do we lift you up, but then you help us lift somebody else up. Then the third point that I see here in the lesson, you'll see it from verse 8, is that circumstances require a choice or a decision. So they bring Daniel, Hananiah, Mishael, and Azariah. That's their Jewish names. Notice he says, I'm going to make them good Babylonians. So he changes their names. See? Be careful, ladies and gentlemen, who you hang with, because you may be possibly being labeled, and see, by association. Come on now. See, so I got women. Can I talk to you for a minute? I got some women who I've observed over time, and they get real vocal about how men talk to them. And I say, well, after I say, can I now share with you from a man point of view? Maybe you need to reconsider how you are dressing. Oh, wait, no, man. Look, I'm free to dress. I said, yeah, you are. But remember now, people are watching you, and they are forming opinions on you based on what they see. Now, it's not your fault. You didn't do anything unethical by putting that on or whatever, but you need to understand that you're not in a isolation, that you are sending out a signal. Come on now. Get sensitive, get quiet up in the church when you start doing that, because, see, messing around. Now, you can preach about Jesus and you can preach about the woman at the well, but don't start messing around with my wardrobe, preacher. I'm just trying to tell you now, you brought it to me. I'm trying to tell you what possibly might be how they are reacting to you. Come on now. Because people are visual, especially me. So if you are acting a certain way, dressing a certain way, don't be surprised if you're getting certain feedback. Now, I don't want nobody to say, oh, he's picking on women today. That goes for anybody. Who you hang with, what you do, where you go. I'm in the elevator. I can't remember where. Oh, I know where it was, Atlanta. And I'm looking up there and I said, I've seen it before. Happy hour. And I thought for a moment, I said, isn't that something how they have packaged this thing, going to drink alcohol so you can commit DUI, create Alcohol Anonymous, and they call it happy hour. So you get caught up. I'm just going to be happy. I'm going to be sociable. See, but if you don't drink, remember Lay's potato chip, bet you can't eat one? Well, we would have no DUI problem if you wouldn't drink one. Come on now. And the hypocrisy is that we love sports. Come on now, we do love, but probably the biggest sponsor is alcohol. And right behind that, the biggest advertiser behind the alcohol is gambling. Come on now. You got to ask yourself, how do I contribute to this cultural mindset? And what does it cause me to do? I'm confronted not with a choice when I come to church. Every day we're confronted with this stuff. Who you going to hang with? Where you going to go? What you going to do? Daniel was confronted with this. They changed his name, but notice the text says, but Daniel purpose in his heart. He said, no. He said, you can do all that stuff on the outside. But as for me, I don't want to be defiled by this. And so in order to make his subjective decision, he now had to make an external move. And so he asked his immediate supervisor, he says, I don't want to be changed. Here's what I propose. Now, notice here the fourth point is that your choices are affected by other variables. Now, I know some of you come to me about stuff going on in your job, but that has no direct appeal to the church because we didn't hire you, right? We didn't. So what you're going to have to do is you got to what? Go back to your job personnel, the policies that they have, and you got to deal with them on the job, right? But we deal with stuff in our lives, ladies and gentlemen, that I pick up here in Daniel, that whatever is going on around you, whatever decisions are made, whatever behaviors are being implemented, you are going to have to make a decision, but yet you are influenced by others' input. We call it peer pressure. Come on now. We call it groupthink. See, what's going on today is that some big mouth speaks up, nobody challenges them, and because maybe they're well liked, we think, oh yeah, they all right, they all right. And so what happens? We end up in Guyana. Because you didn't take time to be a critical thinker. You didn't ask the right questions. And you just went along with the inertia of somebody you trusted. And now here you are drinking Kool-Aid from which you'll never return. Or you're down in Waco with a wacko. Come on, don't think it's not going to happen again. So your choices are affected by other variables. And so Daniel goes to his superior and makes this proposal. Notice the fella said, he doesn't think like Daniel. He said, wait a minute now, you're going to put my job in jeopardy. In fact, you're going to put my life in jeopardy. So he goes to someone else and he said, look, let me propose this test. Why don't you just test us, give us what I prescribe, and let's see if it works. And after 10 days or so many days, the man who was a superior, no, come on, ladies and gentlemen. People aren't stupid. People aren't dumb. You ain't got to go into arguing and pointing the finger at other folk and putting them down from a distance. Just go ahead on and lay out your case and tell them, I want to stand on this basis. That's scientific. And then watch, you don't have to now convince them. They tested him and said, man, you know, you do look better. You do sound better. And to show you that if the proof is in the pudding, here's the last point, is that circumstances and choices, they affect our character. See, character are choices repeated over and over again. And so now, he doesn't send some underling. Nebuchadnezzar comes and tests them himself. And the test says that Nebuchadnezzar, come on now, straight to the top. Nebuchadnezzar found them not one, not two, but 10 times. That's just a figurative word to let you know they so excelled everybody already on his payroll that they stood out. And it's directly cause and effect to Daniel making the right choice and applying himself. Ladies and gentlemen, I told you, and I'll say it again, I graduated in 1969 with a 1.96. Come on, let's, other than just telling you that, here's why I graduated with a 1.96. I was playing hooky from school. So I'm trying to tell you, the first thing, if you want to get above a 1.96, go to school. The other thing was I wasn't paying attention. Now, I wasn't a big actor. I wasn't acting up, cussing the teacher, but I wasn't paying attention. I wasn't taking notes, and I wasn't doing my homework. Come on now, put it piecemeal together. It ain't, look, there's nothing wrong with my skin. I ain't I ain't innately, intrinsically stupid. I had the same ability everybody else. I wasn't applying myself. Those of you want to cry, well, the white man is doing me wrong. The system is doing me wrong. There are recorded instances of white people doing black people wrong. Sure enough, I ditto that. But let me talk to you about your situation. Did you get your hind parts up? Did you wash up and fix yourself up? Did you walk to school or take the bus or get a ride to school? Did you get there on time? Did you take notes while you were in class? Did you ask questions when you didn't know what was going on? Did you do the assignment? Oh, now if you checked all them boxes, got A's in all your stuff, now you try to get hired and the white man don't hire you. Now I'm going to listen to you. I'm going to get in your campaign, your movement, and say justice is wrong. But when you ain't done that, I don't want to hear what you're talking about. You hear what I'm saying? Make sure you cover all the bases, ladies and gentlemen. And it's got to be a character thing. So I told you also, 25 plus years ago, I made a decision. I had a paradigm shift when I interviewed the mayor of Philadelphia, who grew up there at the same church I did in Ebenezer, John Street. And he told me that he got up at 3 o'clock in the morning. Yeah. I heard you say get to bed before 12. I was up there way beyond that watching Johnny Carson and the Late Show. But the Lord said to me, boy, if you really want to be a good pastor, if you want to really be on top of things, you're going to have to get your hind parts up at 5 o'clock. Oh, that was radical for me. But the spirit is willing, but the flesh, let me tell you about that first day. I set the clock. I was willing. I purposed in my heart. I set the clock, but that technology allowed me to hit that snooze alarm. The Lord had to come down past the ionosphere and have another talk with me. And he said, boy, are you serious? And I said, yes. And he said, here's my suggestion. Take that clock, put it across the room, set it for 5. I got up 25 years ago. I get the clock up now. When you make a decision for the Lord, in spite of your circumstances and your situation, he can turn you around. Plant your feet on solid ground. That 1.96 boy in 1969 got 2 terminal degrees in 2022. Don't tell me God can't fix you up. Circumstances, cuisine, choice, and character is not a story about long ago. It's a story about today. And God is looking at you, Daniel 2022, Daniel 2022. He's talking to you and he's confronting you. Are you going to be distracted? Are you going to be detoured? Or are you like Daniel going to be like a tree? Stop making excuses. Stop talking about our daddy wasn't in the house. Stop talking about mama didn't treat me right. Stop talking about peer treatment. All that's true. I feel for you. But it's no excuse for you spinning your wheels where you are. Come on, get to stepping and be somebody. As we close this service today, I'm reminded of Napoleon, who had been outfought during the French and English War and during some respite. The legend is that he heard, or his soldiers heard, distant French music. So the little general ordered them out of their trenches, and of course, with elation and anxiety, they awaited reunion with fellow soldiers. But Napoleon didn't get to be where he was by doing things impulsively. The history says that he knelt to the ground and he listened. Then he got up and ordered them back into their trench. Of course, you know how we are. We start murmuring and complaining. What in the world he doing that? Napoleon responded, yeah, that's French music, but it's English marching. Oh, y'all not listening to me. The devil is so subtle, so specious, so unctuous. He know that old stuff ain't gonna work on McCleary. He know that old stuff, yesterday stuff, is worn out for him. It's got a short shelf life. And so he's working a doozy up in his laboratory for you. He knows exactly what you need. It could be hips, could be money, could be words, whatever. It could be material things, or it could be all the above. He knows exactly what you need to trip you up with your Achilles heel. Isaiah 5 and verse 20 says, woe to them who call evil good. Look at Revelation 13:11. Look at the beast that comes up out of the earth. He looks like a lamb, but he speaks. When you look at 2 Corinthians chapter 11, he says, for such are false apostles. They're just like the devil. They come in dazzling light, but their heart is not with God. Then Ephesians chapter 6 says, in order for us to fortify, just like Daniel, so we can purpose amid these malevolent circumstances, he says, you got to put on the whole armor of God. From the top of your head to the crown of your seat. And the only offense, the one offensive weapon on that outfit is the word of God. So as we stand to our feet, there's an old hymn in the church. I want to ask you, because this is how Daniel got through. This is how he becomes a role model. He had an anchor. Number 534, where your anchor hold in the storm of life. Some man, woman, boy, or girl today, this old story contemporized to challenge you that I want to be a Daniel today. I want to stand up and make the right choices amid these undermining circumstances. If you made that, but somehow you got distracted, so you need to make it again, then this is your opportunity. Or say, I want to join this church where we promote relationship with the Lord or rededication with the Lord. Come on, let's sing, where your anchor hold in the storms of life. When the clouds unfold their wings of strife. When the strong tides lift and the cable strain. Come on, he's talking to you now. Will your anchor drift or firm remain? Make your decision today. Whether you come up the aisle or not, make sure you see me before you leave the premises. Will your anchor hold in the storm of life? When the clouds unfold their wings of strife. When the strong tides lift and the cable strain, will your anchor drift or we have an anchor that keeps steadfast and sure while the billows roll, fastened to the rock which cannot move, grounded firm and deep. Father God, we thank you for the word today. It's a word that comes from the archives of the Old Testament, but yet it is still relevant in 2022. Circumstances may have changed as far as geography and faces, but the old enemy, Satan, the adversary, is still developing Molotov cocktails to throw into our life to burn up our destiny. Lord, we ask that you would put us broken Humpty Dumptys back together again. Start us back on our trek toward the promised land. Help us not to be distracted by lions, tigers, and bears and a whole lot of old minds. But may you hear, or may you send us a tweet, send us an email. Well done, good and faithful servant. We pray as we close this service. Somebody made a decision today. They stepped from darkness into light. And if they want this pastor or this church to help facilitate that and make that publicly acknowledged, then Lord, make sure before they leave the premises that they stop by the office and see the pastor. in the name of Jesus. Let the people of God say, amen, amen, amen.